and welcome to my John Dowland diary. I've decided to break out of Luteweb Corner, and I'm here in this beautiful ancient building at the foot of the Malvern Hills called Little Malvern Priory. Just to say straight off, this building has no connection to John Dowland, but like Dowland, it suffered from a fast changing world. Little Malvern Priory was founded for a very small group of Benedictine monks in 1125. By 1534, only 6 Benedictine monks remained here. The monks were ordered to surrender the building and the lands to the Crown as part of the dissolution of the monasteries programme in 1536. Henry VIII had passed the Act of Supremacy 2 years earlier, proclaiming himself as supreme head of the Church of England. Dowland wasn't born at this point, but this piece of legislation changed everything for England, for Europe, and for years to come. Born 30 years after the Act was passed, Dowland's life was played out in the aftershocks of this seismic shift. Navigating a safe path wasn't easy. So it's here I'd like to share a few thoughts on the early years of Dowland's life and ponder on the question I posed at the end of my previous diary. Was John Dowland a spy? Before I dive in, I'll just give you a little update on the video project. So far, things are progressing well, and I'd say that I've reached a midpoint. I've recorded about 16 videos in various locations, the most notable being Sudeley Castle and Christ Church, Oxford, both of which have historical connections to Dowland. I'm on a steep learning curve though. Some things go well, some technical aspects don't always go to plan, but I'm excited to be sharing his music with you next year. If you want to catch up on all of this and more, click on the full playlist for my John Dowland video diaries. The link is below. Was John Dowland a spy? This is not easy to answer. And in order to formulate some kind of an idea, I need to walk in the footsteps of Dowland to understand his world. Dowland was a musician who survived against a backdrop of brutal times that included disease, public hanging, religious discrimination, and a yawning social divide. Life was perilous. He came from an unknown background and went on to move in circles alongside earls, ministers, even kings and queens. He was a musician whose compositions became known not just in England but across Europe. But it wasn't an easy ride for Dowland, and at one point early on in his life he found himself in a prison in France alongside Catholic conspirators. Now, how did he survive that? If I'm honest, I'm not entirely sure. Dowland was operating as a counterintelligence messenger. It's most likely he would have been active during his time in the service of Sir Henry Cobham, the English diplomat and ambassador to France for Queen Elizabeth I between 1579 and 1584. Sir Henry Cobham was the crossroads, the junction, the intersection for all the intelligence gathering in France in the early 1580s. All the letters, the ciphers, the secret messages went through him. And who was Cobham passing the information on to? The secretary to the Queen, who at this time between 1573 and 1590 was Sir Francis Walsingham, the great spy master. were fraught times for Queen Elizabeth. There were many threats to her authority that had to be intercepted and quashed. She was, after all, in the eyes of some factions, an illegitimate successor to the throne and a heretic. Just as her father had done over 20 years before, Queen Elizabeth passed two hugely significant pieces of legislation within the first 6 months of her reign in 1559, the Act of Supremacy and the Act of Uniformity. The first decreed Elizabeth as the supreme governor of the realm, which included spiritual and ecclesiastical matters and asserted Protestantism. The second, the Act of Uniformity, established the law of the Elizabethan Book of Common Prayer, protecting the newly re-established English Church from criticism and ridicule. Both of these acts gave a powerful international message to Europe and to the wider world that England, under Elizabeth, was independent. The New England rejected the Pope's authority from Rome, and it placed Elizabeth firmly at the centre as the sole defender of both the Church and State. The other highly significant piece of legislation was the 1581 Act of Persuasions. This decreed that if anyone turned their back on the Queen's Protestant rule in favour of the Catholic Church, they would be guilty of treason. Practising Catholics, and in particular priests, would face torture and death if caught. Fines were issued to those who did not attend the New English Protestant Church. There was some degree of tolerance, but overstepped the mark, and the state would step in. 'This new independent direction of church and state, led by Elizabeth I, clashed violently with Catholic Europe. We only have to think back to the St. Bartholomew Day massacre in Paris in 1572. England was febrile, on high alert against conspirators looking to overthrow the Queen. France became a destination for those in exile fleeing persecution, wishing to practice their faith in peace. Paris, in particular, became a hotbed for spies and counter-spies. In 1580, Dowland is in the service of Sir Henry Cobham. How do we know this? Dowland mentions it in a letter to Sir Robert Cecil, Secretary of State to the Queen, dated 10th of November 1595. 15 years since, I was in France, servant to Sir Henry Cobham, who was ambassador for the Queen's Majesty. Sir Henry Cobham had a vital role in the stability of the English throne. Cobham's job was to report on events and keep watch on the English Catholics in Paris. Potential plotting and uprising against the Queen needed to be rooted out. He was also a key player in the marriage negotiations between Queen Elizabeth and the Duke of Anjou, brother of King Henry of France. Cobham was known to be cold and aloof. We know he had dealings with two significant figures in the espionage world, William Wade, known for his counterintelligence gathering, and Thomas Phillips, a linguist and codebreaker. Both men carried out espionage activities for the notorious Francis Walsingham. Cobham was at the centre of a web of communications, intercepting letters, picking up secret packets of correspondence and passing on reams of cipher for Phillips to transcribe. All this activity took place in Paris and centred around the English embassy directly opposite Notre Dame. Dowland, in the service of Henry Cobham, would have been able to soak up the vibrant Parisian musical style, particularly the French air de corps, which could be argued influenced his own songwriting. Cobham, however, was not known as an active supporter of the arts and had even complained that court entertainment took up too much time and detracted from important political matters. Perhaps Dowland's role was to serve as teacher to the wife of Henry Cobham, Anne, and his children. What we know of Dowland from this time comes to us in fragments, such as this, from his first book of airs, published in 1597. I travelled the chiefest parts of France, a nation furnished with great variety of music.